Hello everyone, welcome to 5-Minute Rules for Dash Arena, a board game of jetpack-powered handball in space. There are two main ways to play, basic game and the advanced game. The only difference is that in the advanced game, figures have special abilities. If you're playing an advanced game, players pick their teams first. Both players can pick the same team, but one of them will have to proxy. At the start of the game, players will either agree who will start as the attacker, or both will roll a die, with high roll starting as the attacker. After determining who will be the attacker, proceed to spawn the disc. At the start of the game, place the disc at the main disc spawn space. Later during the game, the attacker will have the option to place the disc on their team's disc spawn space. If you're using boosters, you would spawn them now. Defender places his figures on their starting positions in the order of their choosing. After defender is done placing figures, attacker places their figures. The idea is for the attacker to exploit defender's positioning. Attacker starts their turn. Roll 3 dice. You'll use these dice during your turn. If one of your figures is carrying the disc, you may use shooting team action. Otherwise, you must use positioning team action. Positioning is assumed. You must announce if you're using shooting team action. During positioning team action, you move your figures. Short version. Assign a die to a figure. Move that figure in a straight line exactly one space per pip on the die. Figure will be bouncing off the arena walls and pushing other figures in the process. Repeat for every figure. Long version. Take a die and assign it to one of your figures. That figure gains impulses equal to the number on the assigned die and dashes in the direction of your choice. While dashing, your figure will move in a straight line until it spends all of its impulses. Every time a figure enters a new space, it spends one impulse. Figures change their direction by bouncing. You bounce by exiting through the edge that contains direction arrow. Move your figure to the opposite side of that direction arrow and align its direction with the exit side of that direction arrow. Figure may move more than one space this way. As long as figure enters a different space after bouncing, it only spends one impulse. When a figure bounces, it is considered to have moved through all the spaces direction arrow passes through. If a figure should enter a space occupied by another figure, you're pushing that figure. Spend one impulse and push that figure one space in the direction you're moving in. If the figure is pushed on to its opponent, it falls prone. Otherwise, if it's pushed on to a teammate, currently dashing figure falls prone. Yes, if you push your teammate into a wall, you'll fall prone. It's not a bug, it's a feature. In an advanced game, some figures must be pushed more times in order to move them out of their space. Once you start pushing such a figure, you're spending impulses until you push them enough times to move them at least one space. If you spend all of your impulses before you move them out of their space, you fall prone. Prone figures have no special abilities and can only stand up instead of dashing. If a figure tries to move into a space with a prone figure, it bounces in the opposite direction. While the figure is in the same space as the disc, that figure is the disc carrier. Whenever you move the disc carrier, either by pushing it or by dashing, you choose whether it'll drop the disc before leaving its space. If your disc carrier falls prone, your opponent gains 1 point. When the disc carrier pushes a teammate out of its space, instead of pushing it, the disc carrier can hand over the disc. You must assign a die to each of your figures. You can't assign the same die twice during your turn. The shooting team action is only available to you if one of your figures starts your turn as the disc carrier. Without special abilities, your figure can only throw the disc during the shooting team action. In the advanced game, there's a special class of figures, called throwers, that have ways to throw the disc during positioning team action. Total all the dice. This gains that many impulses. Choose a direction, your disc carrier will throw the disc in that direction. During this throw, the disc will be moving like a figure. That means that it can't change direction without bouncing. Since the disc is not a figure, it can't push other figures. During the throw, when a disc enters a space with a figure, that figure intercepts the disc. When a figure intercepts the disc, that figure may change the direction of the disc. You win the game by scoring 5 points before your opponent. There are two ways to score points, by scoring goals or by opponent's disc carrier falling prone. When you score a goal, you gain 3 points. If opponent's disc carrier falls prone, you'll gain 1 point. The moment any points are scored, everything stops and you spawn the disc again. Player that scores points becomes the defender. For more info on Dash Arena Universe, follow us on social media and Board Game Geek. Links are in the description. Happy dashing!